This is the Franchise QB Podcast, where we empower entrepreneurs to win big in franchising. We huddle up weekly to educate our audience about the most successful small business model ever created, franchising.
Welcome to the Franchise QB Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Halpern, a 20-year industry veteran and entrepreneur. My mission is for listeners to achieve their American dreams of creating wealth and independence through franchise ownership. Every week, we speak with franchisees, franchisors, or vendors that support the industry. Thank you for joining us, and let's get started. Joining us in the huddle today is Chad Harrison, Director of Franchise Development with DoodyCalls and Authority Brands. Welcome to the show, Chad.
Awesome. Thank you, Mike. It's a pleasure.
It is great to have you here. So before you discovered the franchising industry, you spent many years in the restaurant industry in various management positions. I spent a lot of time in the restaurant industry myself, starting as a kid and then getting into the franchise side as I kind of got my career going. Then you joined Authority Brands 4 years ago to lead the development of DoodyCalls franchise, which is what we'll talk about today. I had DoodyCalls franchise owner on the show last year, as well as the brand president, Larry Amos. He was great. So Chad, why did you decide to exit the restaurant space and join Authority Brands 4 years ago?
Yeah, I'm a big foodie. I love, and I still love them. And I can relate to some, restaurant owners that passion side of it. But it's definitely grinding. It's never an 8-hour day, right? It's always 12 or plus. But there's still that passion. I love that business. But it was time for me to move on, maybe about 15 years. And then after COVID too, and actually a lot of the restaurants started paying a little better because everyone was started leaving with COVID, right? And our entire restaurant crew, the GM and everybody, had turned over. But even then, it still just wasn't. I love the customer interaction. I love the pace and so forth. But it was, it was time for me to move on. And then we were moving from New Jersey down to North Carolina too, so it kind of worked out that way as well. And then, so at that point, you got time to get a job, right? And so, looking online and found opportunity for franchising, and so Authority Brands, and David Montanez, and he interviewed me and grilled me with his questions. But he's a great guy and such a great talent that we have at Authority Brands. But hired in there and started at the low level of you're just learning the business, understanding that it's not what you initially think of in terms of franchising, what you see on the streets when you're driving around, but it's just a huge world. And started working with Authority Brands and just a rich culture. Again, David Montanez, Michael Hutchins, all these guys, just, tenured and just excellent resource for me as I grew and learned the business.
Yeah, no, that's great. And we kind of shared that in common. I was in the restaurant space most of my career. And then when pandemic hit, I pivoted to kind of buy-side advisory and helping people get into all kinds of things, including restaurants, but a lot of other concepts like home services, like your business we're going to talk about today. And I did have David Montanez on the show about a year ago or two. He's great. I love the trade brands. I know he kind of oversees all the outdoor brands, so I think he definitely linked up with not only a great company, but great people. So for anyone that's not familiar with the Authority Brands platform, can you tell us a little bit more about the company and its relationship to your brand, DoodyCalls?
Yeah, absolutely. So the company started around 2017, and they started with a few of the franchises, Cleaning Authority, Home Watch Caregivers, and now we're up to 14, including DoodyCalls. So what they've done from 2017 to today is they've purchased where they've seen the opportunity. DoodyCalls, 1 Hour Heating and Air. They see the opportunity in these brands and growing and scaling them, bringing in the talent, technology. And that's what we've done to date. And 14 brands, all home services. We've got emerging brands, young brands, and we've got all the way to pet waste management to HVAC. So it's especially again to your point with COVID and the restaurant business and such. But on COVID with home services, I think most know that just did phenomenal. And but we've got some strong brands, again, some great talent at the hierarchy, at the top end of it and down to the bottom. But yeah, 14 brands currently and solid franchises.
Yeah, it's interesting. A lot of the work I had done, 2020 and previously was all in the restaurant space. And then a lot of the stuff I've done over the past 5 years has been home services. It's a category
Mm.
that has been really attractive for a lot of reasons, namely
Yeah.
because people are reinvesting in places they own and they don't want to move. And the housing inventory is aging, and there's just all of these
Mm.
opportunities to come in and help with that. Plus, you don't need the brick and mortar, you don't need the big lease, and it's kind of lower cost and scalable. And I know Authority Brands has a lot of concepts that kind of fit that description. So let's talk about duty calls. What, for someone that's not familiar with the pet waste management space, what is duty calls?
Yeah, so we're, and Mike, you probably heard this a few times, right? We're number one in the number two business, right?
I have heard that.
We have some fun with the brand for sure. Making yards safe again, all that fun stuff. But Duty Calls, Authority Brands bought Duty Calls in 2018. There's about 30 franchises at that point, and we're a pet waste management company. So um,
Here we go, Chad. I
multiple.
don't mean to interrupt you,
Oh
but I
no, go
still
ahead.
have this behind my
There you
desk.
go.
It's the duty calls kind of stress
Yeah,
reliever.
I
It's got
love
that
it.
little QR code there.
Yeah,
So I got this
yeah,
one. I'm sure you gave this to me at one of our conventions.
yeah, yeah. And they're. I mean, I think that's the
They're
and
fun,
I
right? The kids like them.
yeah, I call it the OG emoji. It's like the first one that came out too, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, pet waste management. And I came across a quote: "Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication," and this brand just lines up there. At the end of the day, yeah, we're just picking up poo, but sophisticated automation systems, processes, and again, Authority Brands taking it to that next level. But at the end of the day, yeah, just pet waste management.
Yeah, and I want to get into misconceptions today. I think that's a
Mm,
really good theme to stick with because when you talk about a
yeah.
business that's around poop, there's all the tongue-in-cheek jokes and all that stuff, but it's a real
Mm,
business. It's a scalable business. It's a very successful business. So let's talk about some of the misconceptions. And being on the development side, I'm sure that you have to address them all the time. So, the first one is it seems like your clientele have to be super wealthy individuals
mm,
that don't have the time or the interest in
yeah.
collecting their pet waste. I mean, is that accurate? And what are the demographics that you generally see in a franchise owner's customer base?
Yeah, and I'm great. I'm glad that we're hitting some of these like misconceptions too, Mike. And then past it podcasts we've had, some of them are just kind of the business aspect of it, but it's great to get into these questions. I'm sure some of your listeners have them, your followers. So when you look at the customers, I mean, it really is the middle class. Middle class is the backbone of our customer base, and then we've got middle class being income levels from 85, 90 up to 100 to 125. um, families are just too busy really to go into that. I mean, honestly, they'd rather pay for the service and spend time with their family. So there's a value that's added there. And then we've got retirees, individuals that can't physically pick up after the pets anymore, or they go outside and the temperature, whatever it is, hot or cold.
Right.
And so we add value there, and pets are a big part of their life, even on a fixed income. And then you definitely have maybe the more affluent that will be that part of customer base too. But yeah, ultimately that middle class.
Okay. And that's a lot of people, obviously. So,
Yeah.
and you spoke to the hot and the cold as being sometimes, it's too hot. They don't want to go out. It's too cold. And where I live, we have, beautiful weather and like for a month in the spring and a month in the fall. And then it's either too hot, too muggy, too cold, too windy, too rainy,
Hmm.
that type of thing. So,
Hmm.
tell us about like the seasonality. I'm sure people perceive this as a seasonal business. What's it actually like out there for owners?
Yeah, we're running 4 seasons. So we have a franchisee that runs and operates in Boston, Massachusetts. Been running for 20 years. And we're up in Wisconsin. We're up in Michigan, and so and then to your sunny, humid states and your Florida and so forth, and Texas. So we run all year round. We joke around again to the puns. Pets just keep doing what they do, whether it's on the snow or underneath it, and so we continue to run and operate. It's definitely an advantage for the brand.
Yeah, no, that's good. It's good to find because a
Mm.
lot of times people say, well, if it's painting and it's too cold, we have to go
Mm.
inside and we miss out on that work. I mean, in your business, like, pets are going to go to the bathroom year round. They're not going to stop
Yeah.
because it's too hot or too cold. So that makes
Yeah.
sense. So let's talk about like when you envision this service, it's more residential. Can you speak to the commercial component? Because I think that's where things get really interesting in any
Yeah.
home service business, including yours, where, residential is where you're going to build those relationships and
Mm.
you're going to go through your digital client acquisition. But then the commercial is where it could be pretty interesting if you get in with the right people, the right landlords, the right
Yeah.
HOAs, et cetera. So can you talk about the balance for a franchisee as it relates to residential and commercial?
Yeah, so we see from anywhere from, 60-40 in terms of gross revenue, residential over commercial. Now, our target is Amy Wise, who's an 18-year franchisee in Houston, says that 50-50 mark between the two is perfect because one side or the other is always growing, whether it's, as we know, residential homes, depending on rates and, what's available in the market, inventory, and then to the commercial side, if houses are too expensive, like where I am and now in Asheville, there's apartment complexes going up everywhere. And so that's the commercial side, those apartment complexes. So a 50-50 mix is, perfect mix.
Okay.
And then when you look at residential, just your individual homes, commercial is changing all the time too. It's interesting because they're taking pets everywhere. When you're doing any traveling, you'll see someone with a dog on the airplane. And so they have to have the pet stations. And we actually have a franchisee that services an international airport. So airports, breweries, wineries, of course, dog parks, and then definitely a big part of it is your HOA communities, gated communities, not gated, apartment complexes, condos. That's our commercial side. And again, it's just changing because they're taking pets everywhere. We added a franchisee in Indianapolis, and they actually have a dog bar. So you go, you take your dog there, you get a drink, and yeah, it's an interesting market.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's the way it is around us. I mean, people treat their pets like family and they take them
Yeah.
everywhere they go, and
Mm.
that includes the extension of the kitchen. So when they go out to restaurants,
Yep.
bars, wineries, breweries, they seem like there's always a designated area where it's pet friendly. So that's kind of
Yeah.
cool that that opens up like a whole new market segment for your franchise owners. So one thing that is really interesting about the brand, it's a relatively low cost of entry, and we'll talk about that here in a minute regarding item 7. But,
Mm.
the flip side of that is it seems like it would be highly competitive because there's not a huge moat to enter the space. Can you talk a little bit about the competitive landscape?
Yeah, so DoodyCalls has been in business 25 years. And so even at that time, there was some competition and it's grown, but it's still a niche industry. There's not a lot of competition. There's a few other franchises out there and mostly mom and pops. I see maybe about 4 to 5 on average where someone will, get their own vehicle and figure that, "Oh, let me do this on my own." They tend to struggle because they don't have those systems processes, as we know with the franchise model, that proven system, but still relatively low competition.
Okay. Yeah, and you mentioned like the technology. I think that's going to be a big piece when someone's vetting duty calls is like, how do we do routing? How do we acquire
Yeah.
customers? How do we communicate with customers? How do we let them know that we're showing up and we've done the job? So, like, all those little things that maybe an independent can't systematize is like done for you, ready to go, and allows the franchisee with duty calls just to focus on like giving great customer
Yeah.
service. Most prospective franchise owners, when they're looking around, they want to see something that's essential. We hear the term essential services a lot as it relates to things that are also in the Authority Brands portfolio, like plumbing, HVAC, electrical. Do you consider duty calls to be an essential service?
Absolutely do. In the 20, and that's again to the franchise model, that proven system, having that history, 25 years in the business. We've seen, 2008, 2011 housing crash. You've seen, again, COVID, as we were referring to before. And then something more, specific, like, again, the franchisee that runs and operates in Houston's flooding and natural disasters that happened. And the customers just come back. And so we consider ourselves an essential service. We have great retention between the commercial, residential, and again, no matter what's going on in the economy, they just we maintain our customer base and continue to grow. It's just one of the advantages of this brand. People love their pets. Pet ownership. I've got my pets here, and so it's a service we're willing to pay for: grooming, pet waste management. Um, And now you've got new drivers behind it. And they weren't always there. Again, 25, 30 years ago, they were there, but not to the extent they are now, but like shelters, adoptions. I see my wife goes on Instagram and someone will adopt a pet that needs a major surgery. It's going to be very expensive. They do GoFundMe, get the money for the surgery. And then find a house for the dog. So it's impressive what's going on in terms of the passion behind pets. It just makes it an essential service.
Yeah, yeah, it makes sense. And you're
Yeah.
totally right. Like the trend continues to be towards, more pets in homes, more
Yeah.
pets in public, like
Yeah.
that. I don't see it changing anytime soon.
Mm-mm.
So the perception is that duty calls isn't a very sophisticated business because you guys trade in poop, right? That's kind of the joke. But ironically, like the majority of people that you and I speak with that are trying to enter ownership, whether they're going to do it full time, owner operator, or they're going to be kind of an executive owner, or maybe a semi-involved owner where they keep their other job. They want something that's simple to operate, right? That like is a lower investment, it's
Mhm.
scalable, doesn't require skilled labor per se. So even though the perception is you're not very sophisticated, you talked a little bit about the systems and what Authority Brands brings to the table. Duty Calls appears to check many of the boxes of what most people are looking for in a business.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's where we target our profit margins, right? We're looking for those, you call it sweet spots. And so, to obtain those, and again, this is where we separate ourselves from the competition out there, mom and pops and other franchises, is hitting those metrics. And so we're doing that through having systems, processes, buying advantage through Buymax, through Authority Brands, vendors, purchasing our trucks, and then system software, service minder, optimizes it. You referred to it before, optimizes the routes for our trucks. No matter how many trucks, you can actually dial into each truck individually, see where they are, how quickly they're moving from visit to visit, invoicing, real-time revenue. It's just QuickBooks integrated. It's just impressive what they put together. Again, to your point, behind a Pru business, the systems, service minder is outstanding. And then we have a call center. Call center takes care of the phones 24/7, 365. We've added, when we again, back to the puns, right? Duty bot. We've got an AI bot that'll cover the odd hours, but then we've got our sales team. It's a phenomenal group. We run and operate and train them in Massachusetts. We run it from our level. And so they take care of the phones, booking, scheduling, pricing, getting the credit cards. We're a subscription-based revenue, so we have predictability in our revenue. That's just a phenomenal group. The weight average, the completion to sales. Yeah, it's behind that, the marketing side, SEO's website. So everything that, to your point, that business owners looking for that coverage and that level of not complexity, but that level of consistency and accuracy is within this model. Again, even for a poo business.
Yeah, no, that's what people are looking for. So what is your process for finding the right franchise partner? Who are you looking for that you have kind of over time realized that, hey, they make a really good fit for us?
Yeah, and it's evolved for sure. At first, you think I have to be a pet lover and maybe not so much the analytical for someone that's just looking for the numbers to work. And that's not what I've seen as I've progressed with this brand. I've seen two owners come in that have bought the franchise that have their own business that they actually grew it to $10 million gross revenue a year. And then they bought their duty call. So I've seen that level. They don't have any pets. I've seen that level. I've seen, C-suite, white collar, blue collar. So I think at the end of the day, whoever might be listening or interested, definitely worth, reaching out to you and connecting, because it's surprising again to some of the points that we're making that, some, misconceptions. It's another one too, as well, is that, again, I think it's an opportunity for anybody and everybody, no matter whether analytical, pet lover, not, no pets. It's just well positioned that way.
Yeah. So you're looking for good business people that can
Yep.
come in
Yep.
and really like follow the system, execute,
Exactly. Yeah.
take advantage of all the resources that have been
Yeah.
established to kind of make
Yeah.
the owners succeed in the model. So let's talk. I know we said low cost, for some people that really don't know what that means, what is the startup cost range or guidance that you provide in item 7 of the FD?
Yeah, so we range, and depending on the state, the California, Florida, the price of running a business, we can be as low as 76 to upwards to 100,000, and in each of those numbers, there's about 30 to 40,000 cash on hand, working capital. So not just all of that in investment. So under 100,000 initial
Yeah, it's pretty
investment.
good. I mean,
Yeah.
and then obviously if you finance it, you're putting in a lot less from a cash contribution
hmm
standpoint. So let's talk about item 19. Do you provide any earnings guidance so that an owner can say, okay, this is what I can expect then when I launch my business?
Yeah, and that's usually like on the first, call that I'll have with somebody is I'll mention this point, the potential. We actually had a franchisee was a technician. And so they bought San Antonio, Austin, just continued to grow from there. And so he is now the highest grossing franchisee, 3.1 million last year
Wow.
gross revenue for
How
picking
many
up the
territories
opportunity.
does he currently operate?
Yes, he's got about 9 territories.
Okay. But that
And
didn't happen
he's
overnight. He started as a
right.
technician, started
Yeah.
gobbling up franchise
Yep.
territories, and he scaled it to a huge business. I mean, 3 million
Yeah.
bucks. Imagine doing 60,000 a week in sales in the poop pickup business. Like amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Top 25% average gross revenue is around 1.2 million. And then our average gross revenue network wide, where we have some franchisees that do this kind of on the side, weekends, evenings, and then franchisees that maximize the revenue around 400,000 gross
Okay.
revenue network wide.
It's really strong. I mean, when you
Yeah.
think about, the margins that must be applied to this business, because you don't really have much cost of bags, labor,
Yeah.
marketing, that type of thing. So this has been great, Chad. Anything else you want to add to the discussion before we wrap up today?
Yeah, it's again to the I think our points is just it seems like a wild card on the front end, but as you begin to learn more about the brand, it's got some great automation systems, processes, and again, just the drive behind it, the passion for pets.
Super. Well, I really appreciate you being here, Chad. And if anyone listening would like to connect with Chad and his team to learn more about becoming a DoodyCalls franchise owner, contact me at franchiseqb.com or on X at QB Franchise QB. I'll get you connected. Thank you, Chad, so much for taking the time to get in the huddle with us today.
Absolutely, Mike. I appreciate you having me.
Thank you for listening to the Franchise QB podcast, where you're at the helm of your future as a franchise owner. If you enjoyed the content, please rate the show and recommend it to anyone that might be interested in franchising. Make sure to visit franchiseqb.com to subscribe to my newsletter and for an actionable playbook to go from walk-on to legend in your new business. Follow us on Twitter at QB and join us every week for a new episode. See you next time.
Visit franchiseqb.com to take the next step of your journey towards wealth, independence, and franchise ownership. And remember, when working for the man gets old, you must do something bold. Thank you for listening.